A very good morning, it's Penuel the Black Pen. One of my favorite people to follow on Twitter is a gentleman by the name of Sizwe Sigamusi, whose Twitter handle is @Sizwelo. He wrote a really great thread, and I'd like to read it for you at this moment. The thread was written at 1:45 in the afternoon on the 27th of May, 2022. Glencore, the largest natural resources company in the world, is more of a crime syndicate than a business. Here's a bit of history. Glencore was founded in Switzerland in 1974 as Mark Rich and Company AG by American Mark Rich and his partners. In less than 10 years, Mark Rich and Company AG was the largest and most profitable independent oil trading company in the world. No one could avoid dealing with this company. By the mid-1980s, Rich and Co. was trading 1 million barrels of crude oil per day. It soon became the largest commodities trading company in the world, trading not only oil but also many metals and minerals from aluminium to zinc and everything in between. How did Mark Rich do it? According to the House Committee on Government Reform in the US, Mark Rich's trading empire was based largely on systematic bribes and kickbacks to corrupt local officials. Now, Mark Rich became very wealthy because he was amoral. He traded with anyone, including the apartheid government, and in 1983, he fled from the United States to avoid tax evasion charges and making illegal oil deals with Iran during the Iranian hostage crisis in 1979. In 2001, US President Bill Clinton pardoned Rich after the fugitive mogul's ex-wife Denise had donated $450,000 US dollars to the struggling Clinton Library and over $1 million US dollars to Democratic campaigns in the Clinton era. Speaking of apartheid, the South African regime may have been the single greatest source of Mark Rich's wealth. He said violating all sanctions for South Africa was his company's most important and most profitable business. International sanctions were put in place to put pressure on the apartheid regime. Bypassing sanctions meant that Mark Rich and Co. sold oil to the apartheid regime at inflated prices and made huge profits. This, of course, strengthened the regime and kept apartheid ticking along. This is how they did it. In the 1980s, the Soviet Union supported Cuba with cheap oil. Instead of transporting this oil over long distances from Russia, Cuba traded a portion of this oil with Mark Rich and Co., which delivered the same amount of oil to Cuba from Venezuela. This arrangement meant Mark Rich and Co. could buy the Russian oil meant for Cuba at a reduced price and sell it to South Africa for a profit. Despite its links to the apartheid regime, Mark Rich and Co. continued doing business in South Africa post-1994 after being renamed Glencore in 1993. Today, Mark Rich's successor companies, Glencore Xstrata and Trafigura, control the price of just about everything. They also control a big share of South African and global natural resources, led by South African billionaire Ivan Glassenberg, who worked for Rich in the 1980s. Another one of Rich's students is Alan Duncan, who became a minister in Britain from 2010 to some year. It didn't fix here on the tweet. Duncan violated sanctions in the 80s to supply oil to South Africa. He's alleged to have moved oil from Brunei to Durban and earned about £100,000 per year. John Deus is another one of Mark Rich's proteges. Deus, a Dutchman described as sleazy, supplied 57% of South Africa's oil imports by 1981 and made $500 million US dollars. In 1991, he signed a new contract to supply 45,000 barrels per day, an increase of 15,000 from the previous year. In 2021, Glassenberg refused to appear before the State Capture Commission after he was implicated as being the mastermind behind the collapse of Eskom after allegedly bribing the current president of South Africa with a chairmanship at one of his mining companies in 2012. Glencore and Ramaphosa first did business together in 2005 when Glassenberg picked Ramaphosa's company Shanduga as its BEE partner on a coal export project before joining forces again in 2012 to supply coal via Glencore's subsidiary Optimum. The allegations against Glencore were as follows. Cyril Ramaphosa was given a 9.64% stake in Glencore and became chairman of the company and become chairman after the company had bought Optimum Coal Holdings, Eskom's coal supplier, in 2011. According to former Eskom Group CEO Brian Molefe, Glassenberg and Glencore appointed Ramaphosa to Optimum to exert political influence and the extent to which Glencore would be able to exert pressure on Eskom directors and management. In 2014, Glencore subsidiary Optimum, chaired by Ramaphosa, renegotiated a 40-year coal contract with Eskom, demanding an increase for 150 Rand to 250 Rand a ton and a waiver of the 2 billion Rand penalties accrued from failing to meet the existing supply agreement. When Eskom tried to enforce the penalties, they were threatened with Ramaphosa's name, according to former Eskom interim group CEO Matsela Koko, while the Glencore subsidiary claimed it only owed 16 million Rand in penalties. To further show the decades-old culture of skullduggery at Glencore, Clinton Efron, who was Optimum CEO at the time Ramaphosa was appointed to chair the company's board, went to the State Capture Commission and lied under oath, saying Ramaphosa was never chairman of Optimum. In February 2022, Glencore set aside $1.5 billion to be used to pay fines for bribing government officials and market manipulation in Brazil, Britain, the DRC, Nigeria, the US, and Venezuela. South Africa under Ramaphosa has raised no complaints against Glencore. Really great piece from @Sizwelo on Twitter. I've been tracking rich lists, Forbes, Bloomberg, and other rich lists for many years, from my varsity years. There's a great gentleman known as Pascal Langa, Mfanase Sarel Salia High School in Glencore, who had very avid reader, and he bought a magazine called Playboy magazine back in the day. I think it may have been in 2012. I was visiting him with another really good friend, Uzamani Ngumano, and I read this article on this guy called Mark Rich and Co. in Playboy magazine. It prompted me to then go and buy the book called King of Oil, written by Daniel Aman, The Secret Lives of Mark Rich. And I was introduced into this world of commodities trading firms and ruthless capitalists, of which today you have ruthless capitalists in banking, you have ruthless capitalists in pharmaceutical companies, of course, and in almost every other industry in the world. I became a huge fan and I learned about commodity trading firms. Obviously, Mark Rich gave birth to Trafigura and he gave birth to Glencore as well. But you've got huge commodities trading firms such as Vitol, such as Cargill, such as Koch or Coke Industries in America, Archer Daniels Midland, Gunvor International, of course, Mercuria and Trafigura as well. Ivan Glassenberg, a chartered accountant who graduated at Wits University in Johannesburg in South Africa. Another popular chartered accountant that we know now is Marcus Jooste of Steinhoff, who was involved in cooking the books and leading to the demise of Steinhoff. Very interesting story for you guys to read, for you to understand how the world works. There are companies we're not yet touching on. Of course, you guys speak about the Rothschild family, you speak about the Rockefeller family. There's families like the Medici family and many other families out there. You guys speak of Bill Gates and George Soros, etc. Very good friend of mine who introduced me to this world of thinking about billionaires and wanting to be very wealthy and understand how the world works is a gentleman by the name of Utumelo Mletsani, another good friend of mine. He used to be a huge fan of especially a guy called Al-Walid bin Talal Al-Saud, a dollar billionaire from the Middle East. These are people you can research. People like Al-Haji Aliko Dangote from Nigeria, Mike Adenuga, the billionaires, the Russian oligarchs as well. People like Roman Abramovich. Very interesting stories that can teach you how the world works, how politics works, the history of business, the history of money, the Dutch East India Company, trading company being one of them as well. One of the cool things that I've started doing, I think I'm going to stop there with that story. One of the cool things that I've started doing is I've started hosting talks around Johannesburg, meeting people at any fast food chain or anywhere where I can be hosted. I started last week in Braamfontein and about 12 gents showed up and we had a really great chat. And I'm hoping to carry on with this trend where I'm just inviting people on Facebook, on Twitter, on LinkedIn, and on my other platforms to come through, chill with me for free, to come and just let's challenge each other's minds, let's sharpen in each other's minds, and let's speak about how we can make our lives and our spaces better Of course, I'm going to use that space to try and recruit other Penuelists for my religion, Penuelism. One of the guys that came through last week is a guy called Eugene, and I just want to thank him because he donated this book to me called Grit by Angela Duckworth. Really looking forward to reading it, and I just want to say thank you so much for the love and for you wanting to add to my knowledge base, because obviously when I become more knowledgeable, I can come on these platforms and share some of this education with you guys as well. Another gentleman I would like to thank is a gentleman by the name of Uveli Mpele. Uveli Mpele is an essayist. He writes essays. He's a social commentator. He's a poet and is a Black consciousness activist. You can check out his latest interview with DJ Sbu on the Hustlers Corner podcast on YouTube. An amazing young man, a great leader who I was supposed to meet at the interview, but I couldn't be there. But he did leave a book for me, Thomas Sankara Speaks. And I want to say, I just want to thank you so much for the love. I look forward to reading this book. Thomas Sankara is one of my heroes. I've learned a lot from him and his story in how to move and how not to move in trying to liberate your people. Whether your people, of course, are Black people as a Black consciousness activist, or your people are whoever ascribe to your values, as I am a Panelist myself. I want to thank two other gentlemen. The first one being Ubabusakile Sbia, who wrote a book, Black Men, Are You Stupid? I look forward to sharing some of the insights with you guys on that book. And then another young gentleman who is on a South African national tour trying to increase the financial literacy of other people. I had the pleasure of bumping into him in Bloemfontein when I was going to do charity work there with Buyisano NPO. His name is Witness Mdaga. Witness Mdaga. And his book is It's More Than Just Money. It's more than just money. These last two books, if you're interested in getting them, please hit me up on my social media profiles. I will connect you with these gentlemen and make sure that you can get yourself a copy of these books. And then the last two books, obviously, I'm going to read and then take some of that knowledge and information and then share it with you guys. Very, very excited to be meeting some of you. Some of you I'm going to organize to meet around the country. I'm very humbled and very blessed, and I'm lost for words. There have been a couple of people who have hit my DMs on Facebook, on Twitter, on WhatsApp, on Instagram, and they have graciously donated some money for me to travel around Gauteng and to travel around the country to make sure that I reach other people as a leader, to educate you guys, to inspire and motivate you guys, to remind you that we have to work harder, we have to work smarter, we have to unlock our minds, and we need to build greater spaces for ourselves and for our people and for our future. Guys, I love you very, very much. I hope in time you will allow me to share some of your names, share some of your businesses, because you guys are allowing me to be great. You're allowing me to connect with other people, and you're doing it just from the goodness of your heart. It really, really means a lot to me. I love you guys very much. Penuel the Black Pen. Look forward to connecting with some of you soon. Have a great Sunday. Cheers.